Ready, Josiah? Couldn't agree more. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Will James. Right. Yeah, and unfortunately, Josiah is a little preoccupied this week, so it is going to be me and we'll call him Josiah. And yeah, we got this. We got it covered. So, we're going to go over this week 16 recap. Anyways, we're going to get into this. We're going to start with some news. Looking at some news outside of the games, we saw Ravens receiver Diontae Johnson was released after his suspension, after refusing to practice and play. Really disappointing to see, since the Ravens went out and didn't sign him, traded for him prior to the trade deadline, and he hasn't really done anything. But this actually does loop back into one of the games. He was picked up off of waivers by the Houston Texans. This came in light of the horrific and heartbreaking injury of Tank Dell on a touchdown catch. He dislocated his kneecap and tore his ACL, and he will be out for the rest of the year, for the second straight year. So it is heartbreaking to see it happen to him again, because he's a very talented receiver, and I really hate to see this happen to him, because he's just such a fun player to watch. He's young and exciting, and it really sucks to see this happen to someone like that. I mean, we've mentioned before, we hate injuries, and seeing this happen to a player again, I mean, wish him a speedy recovery, very speedy recovery, but really unfortunate to see. But the Texans sign Diontae Johnson off of waivers from the Ravens after they released him. Other news, it came out after the Falcons game from last week that the Falcons, or maybe it was prior, I don't remember exactly the timeline, but the Falcons are planning to cut Kirk Cousins, is the at least rumor going around. Planning before his big bonus is due of $10 million, and that hits around, I think, as long as they cut him prior to March 17th. So that hits some of the news. So we'll get into some of these games. There were some good ones. There were some very good games this week, and I enjoyed watching it. Starting off with, my opinion, the game of the week. We had the Commanders taking on the Eagles. Division game. Playoff implications, strong playoff implications, as we got a team who's clinched but looking for the division. And we also have a team that is trying to clinch but also stay in the division race, and the Commanders. And the Commanders, oh boy, that was just a fun game to watch at the end. Commanders, I think, second team this year to have 5 turnovers and still win a game. Jaden Daniels trying to do everything he can to keep them in that game, and he did a lot. And he actually is going to get my first set of flowers for the week, with, again, overcoming those 5 turnovers. 2, I believe, committed by him. I know he had 2 interceptions, but he also had 5 touchdowns, 258 passing yards, 81 rushing yards, and the game-winning drive, which was pretty impressively done. I mean, I don't know, not a lot of quarterbacks you see. Not a lot of quarterbacks can do that very often, and Jaden Daniels, being a rookie, being able to do that, it's just so much to be happy for as a Commanders fan. But yes, this game was very exciting. I enjoyed watching it. It was I mean, it wasn't super close. It seemed like the Eagles had it for most of it until kind of the end. I think the Commanders' first lead of the game actually came with the touchdown with 6 seconds left. So, Commanders, they haven't clinched yet. They haven't clinched the division or a playoff spot even yet. But they're one step closer. Now, some other takeaways: Jalen Hurts did suffer a concussion, so that probably helped quite a bit. Quite a bit. As we saw Kenny Pickett play most of that game, and that is really kind of what gave them a chance. Now, what is entertaining is they did get to end several team seasons by winning that. Again, they didn't clinch, but they eliminated teams as they're holding that 7th seed at 10-5. Yeah, that's about it from that game. So we'll move on to the Cardinals and the Panthers, where the Panthers really weren't. I'm not surprised. I will say I'm not surprised by the outcome of this game. It was Cardinals haven't been trusted all year. Panthers have been playing a lot better. They didn't show up at all last week, but they've been playing a lot better recently, besides against the Cowboys. So, Panthers play spoiler, and they end the Cardinals season short in overtime behind Chuba Hubbard and the growth of Bryce Young, which I had just absolutely loved to see. The guy's been having such a rough year. Actually 2 years, but the tail end of this season has really shown some growth for him, and I'm so happy that he actually has shown that growth and it's giving him a chance to potentially earn that franchise QB role going forward. Again, he'll still have to prove it next year because you're not playing for anything right now. When it actually matters, you'll have to actually prove that, but I think he's doing enough to give himself the chance next year to do it, and I'm happy for him. So, like I mentioned, Panthers play spoiler, and unfortunately for the Cardinals, your season's done. I mean, you still got 2 more games, but your season's done. And usually Josiah likes to add a little quip thing here, and yeah, I don't know. I don't do it like he does, so Josiah hit him with the axe. Cool. All right. We'll move along then to the Vikings and the Seahawks. Didn't get a lot from this game. It was close right up until the end. Justin Jefferson, Sam Darnold play pretty well. Well, pretty well being good, very good. Vikings continue their win streak, which is now the longest, with the Eagles' loss at 8 games. So they're up there. I mean, they're still tied with the Lions at 13-2, just crazy, and making the NFC West a little bit interesting by beating the Seahawks, putting the Seahawks a game behind the Rams. But again, big day for Justin Jefferson and Sam Darnold. He played well. The defense came up big as they had 2 interceptions, one that pretty much ended the game, but also, not to overshadow it was a long field goal, but there was a missed field goal on the Seahawks' second to last drive. It was a 60-yarder that would have tied the game, but that forcing the punt and then throwing in the interception, not a good look for the Seahawks. Offense looked a lot better than it did the prior week, but we're still seeing some of those issues. Vikings team is a tough team to beat, though, so I will give them their credit. But Vikings, you continue to win. Good for you. They're one of the most shocking teams. There's a lot There's a few shocking teams as to like the ones playing well. Vikings just continuing to be that, and good for you. I don't have a problem with it. We'll move along to the Bills and Patriots. Wasn't super noteworthy. Bills stay alive in the first seed playoff race, for the AFC at least, that is. In a division game that was kind of close. Score obviously a little bit makes it a little bit closer at the end. They were up 10 for most of it. They started off real slow, and I think the really like big takeaways from this game are that Josh Allen kind of, is his super freak run, his red hot run at an end? Because I think we have mentioned before that the Bills can't just win because Josh Allen is going to be Superman. But if he continued his play into the playoffs, they absolutely can be Super Bowl favorites. Because at that end, the defense just needs to step up a little bit, the tiniest bit. And they did this week. The issue is Allen looked he wasn't bad, but it was much more average or regular. It was not his crazy stint that he had for 3 to 4 weeks, like nothing like that. And it's just like the question is that run come to an end? Because I think that kind of dwindles your odds a little bit. It's going to make it harder if you lose that momentum, because everyone knows playoffs are all about momentum. And it's just kind of a question of, is that still there? So, yeah, Bills come out with a team win. Team is just, again, a whole played really well. James Cook played pretty well. I had him on fantasy, so I know that much. And, yeah, I mean, looking at the Patriots side just briefly, I don't think you're mad at this. I mean, you lose again, you look at draft position, whatever, but also, more importantly, Drake May still looks good, and he's making the players around him look good. Booty, the player, calm down, has kind of come out of nowhere, and I just think a lot of it comes from Drake May. I think what he's doing there is very good. And again, kind of what we saw, like if anyone who analyzed him, this is kind of what he was, is he was a prospect, but he provided a lot of upside and he had a lot of potential. So I think this is good for the Patriots. I mean, you played someone who's been playing very well lately. Very well. I mean, you played him close, and I mean, we'll have to see next week, when the Bills take on the Jets, how much of that is just it's a division opponent, and how much is you have hope. You have something really to be hopeful for. But I think there's something there. I think they're kind of in that same category with the Panthers. So good for them. Again, Bills team win, which is nice. I mean, Josh Allen isn't doing everything, but also he kind of took a step back in his performance, so kind of just interesting to see, is it a one game thing, or is he cooling off a little bit? And that's going to be big going into the playoffs. Looking at the Thursday night game and the Chargers and the Broncos, I mean, it was disappointing. It was a fun game to watch. This is what everyone's talking about. This is a rave from this game. Was the Chargers making the first free kick at the end of the first half. First free kick that was successful since 1976, who was completed by the Chargers. So, all comes full circle. Very nice moment. Yeah, that and the Broncos charging the game, and not just the game, but the opportunity to clinch their first playoff berth in 8 seasons. Yeah, good job, Broncos. Which is way to go. Good job. But yes, it was disappointing for the Broncos, but the Chargers clawed back, and good for them. They keep themselves in that AFC playoff race. And yeah, I mean, I think the AFC might come down to the wire. Maybe we'll have to see, but it's exciting. It's close. It is close. So, last game itself to talk about. We touched on it a little bit. There was the Chiefs and Texans, and the Chiefs. I mean, they're two teams that just play pretty well. They have their issues on offense, and the Chiefs didn't do anything spectacular on offense, putting a lot of offense through. I mean, you got Hollywood Brown back, so he was there, but you also had Worthy to pick up a lot, and you had Kelsey every so often, but nothing extreme. Fortunately for you, you're playing the Texans, who've also had offensive woes, and like mentioned before, Tank Dell was injured on a touchdown that really helped them in that game. But there's still struggle, especially for the Texans. A lot of struggling. And again, Chiefs getting just a little bit closer. Other games, just to note quickly, Ravens pull away late in that game. Fourth quarter, a little bit of third. 17-0 run, and they pull that game out. And they pull even with the Steelers. So it's going to be a real tight race between those two last 2 weeks. And who knows? Maybe my Ravens will actually be able to win that division. Please. But moving along, not a good game, but the Falcons, like we mentioned with Kirk Cousins. Not really like we mentioned with Kirk Cousins. They started Michael Penix, came in, played pretty well, nothing spectacular. His defense played phenomenally with 2 pick sixes. They played very well and kind of carried them to that win. So props to them. I mean, you did it over the Giants, who big whoop. Good job. Lions pulling off one of the funniest trick plays I think of the year, with a trick play that harkens back to a near disastrous play by the Packers versus the Bears last year, and they pull it off against the Bears. And if you haven't seen it, go look at it. It is really funny. It's they pretend to botch a snap or a handoff. I don't really know what they're trying to fake, but they fake it and catch the Bears kind of sleeping and throw it up to a pretty wide open Sam Laporta. And I don't know, people going crazy about it. It truly is a great play. And also, I mean, Jared Goff did Jared Goff things. He played very well, kind of cruised to a win. Bears kind of put up some numbers, but it's not surprising against the Lions defense that is just bruised and battered like they have been for weeks. But Lions keep on rolling. But moving along, I mean, Bengals pulling off a win pretty easily. The Titans and Colts. The Colts almost gave up the biggest, almost allowed the record, one of the worst records you can allow. They almost broke it. And it was previously, there's the 30-point lead that they blew to the Vikings a few years ago. They almost topped that with a 31-point lead. 38-7, I believe, was the score at one point. And the Titans crawled all the way back to 30-38, but the Colts clinched that game on the back of Jonathan Taylor, who gets my second set of flowers with 29 rushes. Talk about being a workhorse. 218 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dude went off, and props to him. I do love Jonathan Taylor as running back. He is maybe underrated. I feel like some people don't appreciate him the way he should be appreciated, but also I feel like he does get a decent amount of credit. So he's a very good running back, and absolutely gets my set of flowers for carrying his team to that win pretty much, especially with an offense that has not been doing well for a lot of the year. They've been pretty anemic, so good for them. Moving on to win, the Rams getting one step closer to the division, and obviously, again, like we mentioned, paired with the Cardinals' loss, knocked them out. But the Rams win, again, beyond just giving them a little bit more space over the Seahawks, did also eliminate the San Francisco 49ers, who also happened to just lose to Miami, but I believe the Rams winning that game is what actually knocked them out. And yeah, the 49ers, you've not really been good this year. You've been very disappointing. Have been injured, obviously. Very injured, and that's understandable, but there's stuff that goes beyond the injuries. And I think you got a lot of reflection to do this offseason. You're going to be ending with a losing record after your loss to the Dolphins. So it has not been a pretty ride. And your time has come. Hit him, Yesiah. Moving along real quick. We had the Tank Bowl Series Part 5. I think is what we're at. And, yeah, not a pretty game. Raiders win. Blow their stock. Give the Giants the lone top spot in the draft as it currently stands, as the Jags continue to tank. I don't know what's going on there. Doug Peterson, I believe, will be fired at some point. And we're getting into kind of like looking at some of these primetime games, which these were fun. Not for the right reason, but just fun to look at. There are some rumors that Mike McCarthy might keep his job, as the Cowboys have really put together an end to the season. But unfortunately, it is too little too late, as the Cowboys, with the Commanders' win, were eliminated from the playoffs before they even got a chance to play. I don't really feel bad for you, Cowboys. Sorry, but it's been a rough ride, and you tried to turn it on too late. This is what happens. So, unfortunately, your season has come to an end, and you fought hard, kind of, but you're done. I hate them. But yeah, Cowboys being eliminated. Even though they were eliminated, though, they still went out and played a very close game and a pretty good game against a hot Buccaneers team who suffered a loss that was bad to suffer, because that loss actually, despite how things have been going recently, that loss actually forfeits the division lead for the Buccaneers, and now the Falcons are the lead after an ugly few weeks. They're now division lead with that loss to the Cowboys, and the Buccaneers they're in trouble. It's just not a good position to be in right now, because you kind of lost control of your destiny. Looking at how the Cowboys actually pulled this out, they started hot and they played pretty well. The Buccaneers had the ball with a chance to take a lead on a game-winning drive, and I mean, a heads-up play by Baker dishes it out to Rachaad White, and Rachaad White just got manhandled by my third set of flowers, DaRon Bland, who just manhandled him and just ripped the ball away. And yeah, he had a game-winning fumble. I mean, it's not even really a fumble. He just stole the ball out of the man's hands like he was a child, and single-handedly ended the game for the Cowboys. It was just, and there was a lot of impressive plays, but that one alone, I was like, flowers. So, DaRon Bland, you get my third set of flowers with a very impressive game-winning play. And yeah, Good job. Cowboys, you are blowing your draft stock, so good job. And finally, we'll look at the Packers, who hosted the New Orleans Saints. Ugly game for the Saints. Packers pitched the first shutout of the season, 34-0. And with that, the Packers actually clinched a playoff spot. So we got one playoff spot, two division spots and one wild card spot left in the NFC. But looking at the Saints side, the Saints were eliminated. It was an ugly season with a really, really hot start those first 2 weeks, but injuries and your play and Dennis Allen really slowed you down, and you have, I think, a lot of hope. I wouldn't say hope. You have a lot of potential maybe with Rizzi. He's coached your team well, and I think you explore that. But you got a lot of reflection to do, and I also think there's a lot you can do in the offseason if you open up to a rebuild. So it's time to blow it up. Hit him, Yesiah. It's not gonna get old. But yeah, that kind of touches on every game. Not a lot of news across all of them, but we are going to get into power rankings. Now, I did mention that Josiah isn't here, but he did leave me his notes. So we are going to go over power rankings. We'll have mine, which I can provide my reasoning for, and we'll look at his and just wonder. Again, I did not base mine off of his. He sent me his before, and I have not really looked at them. And by not really, I mean closed my eyes as I scrolled past just to look at his notes and stuff, just to see that they're there. But I have mine, so we'll go through. We'll do this like we usually do it, but we won't have any of his reasoning. So again, probably be a little quicker. But at number 10, I actually have the Los Angeles Rams, who are on a hot win streak and have been hot pretty much since they got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back. Big surprise, only suffering 2 losses, and they've been very good in the latter half of the season. They've completely grabbed control of the division and are pretty much playing with their own fate at this point. They control their destiny to the playoffs, and they've been very good. Not necessarily it hasn't been all offense, all defense. They haven't really played complete football. They're not playing cohesively, like a good offense and good defense. It's kind of one or the other. But they're still managing to win games, and I think you just get that with Sean McVay, who's been very good in the latter half of the year, pretty much always. So, props to them. At number 10 for Josiah, he had the Pittsburgh Steelers. Interesting. I can kind of see why he did. I had the Steelers actually at number 9. That is my number 9. As the Steelers suffer a loss to the Ravens, they continue their descent as they're kind of on a downward spiral, losing control of the division, and now they're just in a tough spot where they continue this tough streak going against the Chiefs this next week, and you still have the Bengals. It's not going to be easy for them, and they continue to slip. Again, I still had them at 9, so I'm curious why. I'm not surprised he had them down at 10, but I still think the Steelers are leg up on the Rams, as their offense maybe is not what especially Josiah would call complete, but that defense is still very scary. So I'll credit them with that. Josiah at number 9 actually had the Los Angeles Chargers, different Los Angeles team. The Chargers, coming off of the win against the Broncos, I can see why he had them. I had the Broncos in the top 10, and I had the Chargers just out last week. Last week I had them there. And so I can see why he would put them up there. I didn't necessarily feel that the Chargers should have been up there. but I can see why. Chargers are like right on the brink. There's a lot of teams kind of right behind the Rams. A lot of teams right behind the Rams. But this 8-6, like, there's tiers. There's 1-5 that are like way up here, up there. Then there's 6-8 that are like down here, and then there's like 9 to like 15, 16 that are just all jumbled. So this is where I think it really gets interesting. At number 8, I have the Commanders, and so does Josiah. Right, Josiah? Speak for your counterpart. All right. Never mind. I guess he's not really talkative today. So yeah, Commanders coming off of a huge win. I dropped them out last week, but even though they played sloppy, they still won a huge division game against the Philadelphia Eagles, who a lot of people regarded as the top team in the NFC, maybe even the league, after being so dominant and such a strong win streak. And I think the Eagles are still really good. You lost Jalen Hurts for a game, and it didn't work out well. Big surprise. But Commanders, again, still a lot of credit to you guys, and especially Jaden Daniels. It's still a good team. I think there's still some concerns, but you're really new, and I think you're still in a really good spot. And again, he had him there too. We both had him there. At number 7, we actually both have the Packers. Didn't move you because, again, you played really well, but you're not quite playing to the level of a top 5 team. Like, those top 5 teams are still just a hair above. And the reason why I didn't move you up, you didn't do it against great competition. Again, there's going to be controversy. Some people are going to be mad. But the reason I have them at 7 is because I have the Ravens at 6. And maybe my reasoning wasn't as good last week. That's up to you, but I feel like this week, definitely after beating the Steelers, a good division opponent, and pulling away at the end in such a fashion. And again, the Steelers are no cakewalk. So I had to give them some credit, and even though, again, the Packers absolutely dismantled the Saints, I have to give the credit to the Ravens. Also, no, I'm not biased. It's just because they played a better team and played well and won. They put up the same amount of... Ravens number 6, for me at least. For Josiah, he actually has the Minnesota Vikings, which I think is very interesting because I think that's sleeping on them a little bit. And if I were to guess his thought process, a lot of it goes into the fact that the Vikings almost lost to the Seattle Seahawks, but I don't think he gives them enough credit. That is my assumption based off of what he has there. Vikings at number 6 kind of seems pretty disrespectful because yes, you almost lost to the Seahawks, who haven't looked good, but you played a pretty good game. The Seahawks offense showed up a little bit, but your defense stepped up when it mattered. I disagree. We'll tune in next time to kind of see his thinking behind that one. But I don't know. I couldn't do it. My number 5 though, I actually dropped the Eagles here. It was only like 2 spots really of a drop for me. Again, you lose, but you'd lose a close game without Jalen Hurts. You played that game close with Kenny Pickett. I think that provides a lot of confidence because I think the Commanders can be kind of a sneaky team this next year. So I think that's actually something to watch out for. But we'll look at Josiah, and Josiah actually has the Ravens here. So he actually had him a spot higher, which I don't blame him for. No, I actually like that. I should have done that myself. But number 4, I have the Chiefs, which is also where Josiah has them. Chiefs, I have here. I mean, you move up just because, again, the Eagles. Defense, I think, is kind of the concern, but I mean, even still, the defense made up 5 turnovers, but still kind of crumbled a little bit. And again, Kenny Pickett really didn't help. But Chiefs, I mean, you had a solid win over the Texans, who are a good team. They still have their offensive struggles, and I think the record is, I don't know, a little bit better than it maybe should be. They're in a really soft division, to be fair, so they have it kind of easy. But Chiefs, you get a solid win over a Texans team, and you don't do it really with any black magic. So, number 3, this is where I have the Vikings because they have the longest win streak in the NFL right now. They're playing good, but I don't think they're getting credit for it, and they're not doing it against cupcake teams either. So, I don't know. Some people might disagree. Maybe people think the strength of schedule is not where it should be for a team at number 3. But Josiah actually has the Eagles here. I dropped them a little bit further. He did not. I can see why. I think they should have been dropped a little bit more. But again, Kenny Pickett. It's really all the excuse you need. And I agree. I think the Vikings should be higher. That is the only gripe I have, really, with this list. Number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills. Yes, you dropped a spot. Mostly because you played the Patriots close. And no, I gave a lot of praise to the Patriots. And I stand by that. The Patriots deserve some praise for playing well, but you didn't look as good and you slowed down a little bit. Again, maybe it's a 1-week thing, but I don't know. And Josiah actually has the Lions here, so we do have a little bit of a flip-flop, as I have the Lions back up at number 1. Welcome back. I gave it to the Lions just because, I mean, Lions, Bills, you both played a division opponent. Lions beat them by a lot more, but Bears' trajectory is way down and the Patriots' trajectory is way up. Potential-wise, just promise-wise going forward. But I don't know. Even the Lions, like, with being beat to hell, still put up a better showing, I feel like. And they still have that really good offense, which is kind of carrying them. Defense, again, wasn't perfect, but still kept them under 20. It is still the Bears. But still, the Bills' defense stepped up a lot, but again, the thing that had you at number 1 before was Josh Allen. And him taking a step back is going to have you take a step down. I see that, again, Josiah had those 2 flipped, and maybe it's because the defense stepped up. He gives him a little more credit. Josh Allen didn't have to do as much. Maybe that's why, but to each his own. I don't really hate this. My biggest gripe is that Vikings one, because I think they should deserve more credit, but I'm sure he has his points to make. But that seems to be everything at least that I have to cover this week. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, bear with us as the next episode also will not have Josiah, but Josiah might be here. I don't know, kind of creeps me out. But yes, thank you so much for joining us. Me, him, us, togetherness. And this has been the Week 16 recap. Merry Christmas to everyone, and we hope to see you very soon. Bye.